and welcome to today's edition of the program Health is Wealth, brought to you by Nigerian Television Authority, NTA Maiduguri, in collaboration with University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. In today's edition of the program, we shall be talking on psychological impact of COVID-19. With me in the studio to talk on this topic is an Associate Professor of Psychiatry, UMTH, Professor Dr. Said Jida. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
If I call you Professor, it's still online, right?
Associate Professor will do.
Okay, Associate Professor. Yes. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
And I am Pauline Kujevana. Glad to have you join us. The index case in Borno State generated anxiety amongst its residents, leading to the extent that the state government had to take drastic measures to impose lockdown on the state. Now, sir, how will you assess this step by the state government?
Yes, the steps taken so far by the federal government and the state government have been spot on in terms of general principle. When there is a pandemic or there is an epidemic, what you try to do, particularly if there is infection from person to person, is to try to limit the number of contact between person to person. And that is exactly what they are doing. But I would like to urge that we can do more. We can borrow a leaf from what people are doing elsewhere, like in Lagos, what they are doing in terms of community markets, and other things like that will help mitigate the spread between person to person. But so far, I think the government is doing quite good. Yes.
Okay. Do you think that the lockdown has really yielded positive results?
No, no doubt about that. I think the lockdown has actually helped. If you look at the trajectory of the model that was formulated by the NCDC, we are expecting to get much more cases than we have now. And if you look at even the developed countries that have a lot of epidemiological and preventive infrastructure, you see that 9 weeks as we were into their index cases, you see the number of cases they have, the number of deaths they have, the number of admissions into hospitals they have. But this you don't find here. So it shows that we are doing exceptionally well. And I think we need to double down on what we are doing. We need to strengthen it. We need to be thinking outside the box, just like what Lagos has been doing, So if we do that, if particularly the last message of the Mr. President on this matter, people should listen very well. People should take everything he has said very seriously. When you want to come out, if on occasions where the lockdown is going to be eased, always come out with your masks. Always ensure that you are not jam-packed in a closed vehicle, Now, if we do all of this, we will continue in the current trajectory where our numbers are low, our deaths are low, our hospital admissions are low. So I think we are doing well. We just need to improve on what we have put in place.
Okay, so let's look at it psychologically now. The trend amid the lockdown and the COVID-19 is that sick people find it difficult to go to the hospital. One, for the fear that their case might turn out to be COVID-19. And two, that they might be neglected by the health workers. Now, how will you build their confidence psychologically?
Okay, first of all, I have to admit that in situations like this, the first instinct is self-preservation. Everything the living organism does is to ensure that he survives, and then next to ensure that he reproduces. So that is why we would not be surprised in the kind of actions that the members of the community have taken. This is a disease that is not well known. This is a disease that they see on every daily basis. 10,000 deaths, 20,000 deaths in the most developed countries with the most developed health system. And they ask themselves the question, if these particular developed countries could record this amount, what of us? If this particular illness, like in Borno State, is said to have entered into the health system, and health workers are getting infected, and people who are infected, they go to the hospital to seek services. So what are the chances that when I go there, I'm going with my malaria or with my headache
or cough,
I will go and pick something that is much more deadlier than that. So a bit of cost-benefit analysis goes into that decision making.
Okay.
Now, having said that, I would like to ask public to also understand that we understand the enormity of the infectivity, okay, of the communicability of this disorder, of this illness. And so we have put things in place that would allow people to be able to come in safely, access services safely, and go out safely. But we have to understand, the public have to understand that the cost-benefit analysis they are doing is also correct.
Okay.
It's also correct in the sense that except an illness is serious, but it
started gradually.
Yes, no, there are illnesses. Yes, but everybody knows when an illness becomes serious.
Okay.
You can guess, and everybody knows an illness that he already has that is serious.
Okay.
Now, such kind of illnesses, you have to have communication with your doctor.
Okay.
You don't have to wait at home.
But it's not all that have that opportunity to have a doctor to talk to.
No, the hospital has not been locked down.
Okay.
The hospital has not been locked down. If you have an emergency that is serious, that will require the attention of a doctor, the accident and emergency is open for people to come and access service. But it has to be an emergency. It doesn't have to be something like small backache or small headache or, and then you come into the hospital and then you use up the resources of the accident and emergency, when other serious cases, okay, including even the COVID-19, may require the services of that resource. So the thing is, there should be a balance. The public should understand that there should be a balance.
Okay.
Balance in the sense that if you have no serious problem, you shouldn't come to the hospital.
Okay.
But if you have a serious problem, you must come to the hospital because the services are still ongoing, particularly emergency services and services for people that have serious problem. Let me give you an example of something that is serious. A woman is about to deliver. She can't wait.
Yeah.
So if you need to deliver, you have to come. If you are already in labor, you've already been booked, and your time is due, you are having labor, you have to come to the hospital.
Okay.
There is no connection between where you are going to have your labor and where all the emergency cases that are related to this disorder are being kept. They are kept in a very secure, separate place.
Okay.
So there is no contamination between one side where you have things like delivery and where you have people that are isolated or that are being managed for this problem.
Okay, having a look at it holistically now, how will you narrow it down to those at the isolation center psychologically? Okay,
yes. Coming back to the psychological impact. The psychological impact can be looked at from the wider public, the psychological impact on the wider public,
okay,
the psychological impact on the frontline workers,
okay,
those people who are daily being in close contact with people that have COVID-19,
okay,
managing them and taking care of them. And then the psychological impact on people who have tested positive and are taken to isolation unit and removed from the public. So there are different levels of psychological impact across this section of populations. Now for the general public, every day we are being bombarded in the electronic, in the print, in the social media. landscape with very scary statistics and information,
yes,
including even fake informations that makes you
scared more.
Yes, and you begin to fear for your family, you fear
Yes.
for your children, fear for your own life.
Yes.
Now, this has a tendency to create mass anxiety,
Okay.
an epidemic of anxiety in the public. And because of that, people are likely to make wrong and rash decisions,
Yeah.
like going to take certain medications that are not sanctioned, that
Or
are not
herbal
safe.
cure.
Yes, and
Yeah.
some herbal cures and all of that. So that is one aspect. Now, the second aspect in regards to the psychological impact on the wider public is the lockdown itself. The lockdown, like I earlier mentioned, is very, very, very good in curbing the spread of this virus and keeping us safe. But however, keeping people in a closed space for a long time
okay.
has a psychological impact on them.
Okay.
People bump into each other, that can create, conflict.
Okay.
It's a small space of maybe 2 rooms, 3 rooms, and you have 5 people sharing it.
Yes.
A wife, a husband, children. And so people will get into each other, people will bump into each other, and things can escalate into fights, and you have cases of domestic violence and other things that come up.
Yeah.
And you have violence to children, usually children, they go to school from morning till 3-4 p.m. And father comes, they interact for 1-2 hours, they play, and everybody's happy, everybody goes to sleep. Now,
2-4-7
they are together, so
Yeah.
things can really escalate, and so that has a psychological impact on the family structure, on the individuals that are locked alone. So that can create pressures. It can lead to depression. It can lead to adjustment disorders, and all of that. So that is the psychological impact in a nutshell on the general public, on the wider community. Now coming to the frontline staffs, which, by the way, includes journalists too, not just doctors and healthcare workers.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, when you go to cover, particularly in situations where you have mass deaths, and you have to go and cover these mass deaths, it has a psychological impact on you.
Yes.
It has a way it drains your psychological resources.
Indeed.
Because you are exposed to your own mortality.
It's true.
You are reminded in a very stark way of your own mortality, and that can really have existential issues related to it. And then for the frontline staffs, you see somebody coming, hale and hearty, within 7 days, you see his problem escalate, and suddenly before you know it, you've lost the patient. So that can have a serious impact on you. For some doctors and healthcare workers, a sense of guilt can come in.
Yeah.
The feeling that maybe I've not done well enough for this patient. Maybe if I had done this and this patient wouldn't have died. That sense of guilt comes in. Even if the healthcare worker has done his best, but the sense of guilt can persist. Yes. And also the wailings, the cryings, the anguish, the suffering of the people who are dependents of this person, the loved ones who are left behind, to whom you have to break the news that, oh, sorry, I've done my best, but your
patient, your person has gone.
Your loved one has gone. So all of these things, they have an impact. And then, very importantly, the impact on the sense of potential for one to become infected.
Okay.
Yes, that fear is always at the back of your mind, no matter how much protective, there's nothing you do that is 100% foolproof.
Okay.
You put all your protective, gadgets, you put them, you go see the patient, but one small mistake, and you can get infected. So that fear is always lingering at the back of the minds. And then you have situations also where you are exposed to patients, but you don't have adequate protective, personal protective equipment. So all of these things add up and create a psychological impact on the frontline staffs. Yes. Now, and then thirdly, quickly, the people that are put in isolation, they also have their own unique difficulties they face, which leads to psychological impact. Here is someone who is together with his family, with his loved ones, and suddenly he has had contact with somebody who had COVID-19, and he receives a knock on the door.
Okay.
You know, because when somebody has had contact, when somebody has COVID-19, he's adjudged to have COVID-19, he tested positive. The next thing to do is he's going to be carefully interviewed to find out where he has been, okay, in the recent past.
Okay.
And then the number of persons he has contacted within that period. And these people's address are now traced. So you are sitting at home, you just receive a knock on the door, and you see people, you know, all put, you know, with mask and everything.
Everything coming to pick you.
Coming to pick you. It can be
You'll be wondering what is happening.
Yeah, it can be very traumatic. That alone can be traumatic.
On its own.
And then you are put into this van, and then you are shipped somewhere that you don't know where. And your loved ones are busy wailing behind, you know, children are crying, everybody is
crying.
So, and then you are dumped in that place. Sorry to use that word, but that is how he feels.
Yes.
Yeah, he feels being dumped. Yes, even though that is not the intention of the government and the establishment. So he stays there with other persons who are equally anxious. You know, everybody is anxious and everybody is looking at everybody, and everybody is wondering what is going to happen. And then he waits for his own test. That waiting period for your own results, you can imagine. It's another anxiety. Yes, you are waiting to get the result. You know, to get. Yeah, so you and then he gets his result, and then he tests positive. That is another trauma, and now he's now put into another place where positive cases. Alone. Yeah, there's going to be a long-term confinement of maybe a week or two. Now, so he stays there. He doesn't know. There are some people who, you know, on a daily basis, they need to go out, you know, they need to be on top of the situation in their households. Suddenly, he has no contact with his household in a direct way.
Yes.
And maybe he hasn't made preparations for family,
leaving the house.
So
such early.
Yeah, so anxieties and all of that can come in. And so these are briefly the kind of anxieties people go through. And depending on the inner resource of everybody.
Yes.
The way everybody deals with that anxiety differs. If you are strong in terms of your resource, psychological resource that you have, these things, you just brush them and move on. But there are certain persons, just coming to pick him at home alone is enough to create a breakdown. And when he comes back, he goes into severe psychological, it cascades down to severe psychological problem that will require long-term psychological management. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how far were you able to manage this category of people in the isolation center and probably the health workers?
Yes, we are beginning. The NCDC have created a psychosocial. It has a psychosocial response unit, and people all over the country who are in isolation centers and who seem to develop some psychological problems, we are able to reach out. We are able to reach out to them on phone, and we are able to discuss with them, and we are able to allay their anxieties before it develops into something much more
bigger.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right, viewer. If you are just joining us, this is Health is Wealth, reaching you from NTA Maiduguri, and the topic is psychological impact of COVID-19. With me is an associate professor of psychiatry, UMTH, Dr. Said Jidda. And sir, how can the general public now cope with this psychological impact?
Okay. Now, the first thing we have to say is that what we are seeing now is not something new to humanity. This is something that has been recurrent in the history of humanity. What we are seeing right now is minimal compared to what humanity has faced and surmounted and survived from. And what is even much better for us is that we have more tools, we have more knowledge, we have more wherewithal to be able to handle this. The last pandemic that is similar to this one that occurred was in 1918, around this after the Second World War.
Okay.
That one killed millions and millions of people. Millions and millions of people. So before that, you have plagues that come, and it decimates half the population of a country.
Okay.
But here you see that we understand before 1 month we've been able to characterize what the virus is, what is the name of the virus, how the behavior of the virus we are understanding within weeks. Every week we are taking measures and
against
protecting
the virus.
Yes, against the virus. So this is an emergency because of a pandemic, but this pandemic is something that we have a solution to, and the solutions we are putting forward is working.
Okay.
So it is not the end of the world. In fact, humanity has never been better prepared to deal with problems, like it is doing at this time.
Okay.
So that is the first positive message I want everybody to take.
Okay.
If you follow the rules, if you respect this virus, respect this virus. Respect the virus.
Okay.
If you respect the virus will respect you.
Yeah.
The virus will not
come
care, it will not come near you. But if you disrespect the virus,
it will knock on your door.
that is the thing.
All right.
What Mr. President have said, what our health workers are saying, what the media is putting forward that you need to do, just simply ask your wife, even if you don't have money to buy a face mask, ask your wife to cut one of her wrapper and create a face mask for you, so that when you are going to go out to struggle for resources for your family,
you use it.
You are able to protect yourself. This is something simple.
So what is your advice for the people on the front line?
Yes, again also the same thing. The people, first of all, the people in on the front line should see themselves for who they are. They are part of something that is much, much bigger than themselves.
Okay.
They are part of a struggle for the continual existence of humanity.
Okay.
They are the hope of humanity. They are the hope of their country. And so they should be proud and they should be strengthened by that.
Okay.
And having said that, they should also respect the virus.
All right.
Let them not allow any iota of complacency as they go about doing their business.
All right.
Always ensure that the measures, the normal routine measures of protection is taken care of before you confront any patient.
Okay. In 1 minute, what is your advice to the government on this matter?
What I will advise the government is keep doing exactly what you are doing.
Okay.
Try as much as possible and as humanely as possible to enforce these ideas that you have put forward. Because this is an idea, this is a policy that is based on knowledge. So the enforcement of the face mask is very, very important. It's extremely important. We should have people of the Peace Corps, people in the civilian JTF, and members of the public. If you see somebody in public without a face mask, politely and gently ask him, why are you not on your face mask? Let's get this. This face mask is going to be very, 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 very important in preventing this community spread and allowing us the space to get to the point where humanity will be able to have a vaccine, either man-made or natural, because there's going to be a natural vaccine.
Okay.
The natural vaccine will happen when about 40 to 50% of the population have the virus and have been able to deal with the virus.
Okay.
Then at that point, the transmission from person to person becomes very negligible. So it's no longer going to have much impact.
All right.
Yes.
All right, viewers. This is how far we can go on today's edition of the program, Health is Wealth. And to my guests, who really appreciate your coming. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, on behalf of the production crew, I am Pauline Kujevana saying join us next for another edition of the program. From me, bye and stay safe.